Okay, today I got these in the post.
Scruffy Crow.
So, on all the various Facebook groups I'm part of, the Nolzurs catapult has been used quite extensively, as it's a pretty simple basic catapult. But I saw someone post these the other day. I thought they'd be quite interesting for my Warlords of Erehwon army as sort of a light war machine or catapult. I think that's an option they have. Either way, I just wanted to get my hands on one of these. I've never had any of these Wizz Kinds models before. So mostly I just wanted to see what they were like, how they were to paint up, stuff like that. I was just curious. So let's get these out of the box and I'll tell you what I think. So they come with what I assume are meant to be bases, but they would just about fit on those. I think I'll go and find some 40mm lip bases for them. So my initial thought is they're quite similar to Reaper Bones. They've got a similar amount of sort of flexibility. They're quite bendy. I think they'll be quite durable, I guess. So the detail looks okay. So there's little sort of cogs and doohickeys and bolts. That looks alright. There's some quite bad mould lines, sort of flash. So it claims they are primed and ready to paint out of the box. So they are, I can feel like there's a tooth, there's a roughness to this material. So I don't doubt that they would take paint. But I'm not sure they are primed. Or if that's just the plastic they're made out of. Oh no, there's definitely a different plastic underneath. So just like I would if this was Reaper Bones, I'm doing more of a sort of slice with the mould lines than a scrape. Though having said that, scraping does work. I'm not getting any weird fur or anything. So, after faffing with them for a little bit, I have noticed that they were made in separate pieces. And they appear to have been glued together. So this hasn't just been cast as one part. I guess as miniatures, they're aimed at the sort of people who just want to either, get them on the table just as is, or, have the minimum amount of hobby time before making these available to use. But for me, I think they could have done a better job by making them in kit form. Priming my minis, even in winter, is not exactly the toughest job. I'm going to have to redo it again anyway after I've cleared all these off. Okay, so I went out to the garage and got these two 40mm bases. Got some masking tape here. So I'm just pushing this into the corners, covering the slot. And then just running my knife around the edge there inside the lip. Just using a little bit of my normal gel super glue. Pop that in the middle there. Next up I'm just going to take a bit of this PVA. And then using this crappy old art brush we just get that around the rest of the base. Just wiping off any excess PVA there. Nice and neat. And dump it into my bird sand. And I'll leave them in there for at least a couple of hours. Alright, so there they are, based up with the sand. And yeah, they fit on these 40mm bases really quite nicely. I did manage to break this one. So there's now a little bit of florist's wire in there, just pinned in. Whereas if you look in this one, that's white all the way through. It's one of the sort of connection points. I'm assuming this arrow is meant to be continuous all the way through, but you wouldn't necessarily know without looking, so I'm probably not even going to be able to fix that. So the next step is just going to be to re-undercoat them. I'm going to start by giving these guys a coat of matte black. Okay, that's dry. Everything on my tray is going to get a zenithal highlight of this grey. There we go. Nice undercoat to start my painting on. Alright, so this is the undercoat on. I've given this sort of zenithal highlight, but not that it was particularly important, I don't think, for the way we're going to paint these. So the first colour I'm going to give them is an all-over smooth coat of this P3 Idrim Flesh, which I think is quite a good base for wood. And I've been using this straight out of the pot on my big makeup brushes to get in all the little nooks and crannies. Get a nice thin coat on there like that. Next up, I'm going to switch to this sort of craft brush, still using nice big brushes. I'm going to go with this Agrax Earth shade. So on the one I painted earlier, and we're just going to pull that across all the wooden sections like this. And that brings our nice lower lights out, it shades it all not quite well. Alright, now we're going to bring it from there to here. And I could tell you I did this on purpose in this order, but it was actually a mistake. I normally do the base colour, then this Zandri dust, and then the wash, and that kind of holds it all together. Whereas this is it with the Zandri dust on last, and actually I really like the way that's worked. So I might actually look into it. As I say, complete accident, but I guess that's like penicillin, right? So I'm giving this a proper dry brush. I've got a nice soft big brush, and I'm just going to try and catch those little ridges in the wood. Okay, so now I'm taking it from this to this with some of this P3 pig iron, quite similar to Boltgun metal. And I'm picking out the border around the front of the crossbow, all this sort of strapping on the back, obviously the skull, and then any sort of metal plates, gears and strapping. And for some reason the colour scheme at the moment is reminding me of like a LARP shield. I'm not sure why. And I'm going to be using this cheap Chinese brush. The points start pretty good on these. They don't last very long, but I use them for metal because they are super cheap. Also, I'm ruining the illusion that I do anything other than do all these painting videos all at once. Alright, so we're just doing finishing touches now. I've gone over the fletching with some Celestia Grey and then a bit of White Scar. I've done the sort of bowstring with a bit of this XV88. And I've actually even done a little bit more. I tried to do some sort of wood lines with the Zandri dust, but couldn't really get them neat enough. But I've just done it so it just stands out a little bit from the rest of it. So I think that's all my colours down. We're almost there now. So what I'm going to use is this Null Oil, and we're going to give all the metal bits a little bit of a shade with this. Once again, focusing on the front, because that's where I want it to look the best. And this should help bring out some of these details and take some of that sort of plasticky look away, I think. And I'm going to use this in all these gears in the back here. That should help put some shadows in, some definition on these panels on the side. I'm also going to put a thin layer on the arrow fletching. That should bring out those little lines. I'm even using it to outline any little bits of strap in here like that. And it'll give that little bit of shadow as well as tone in the metal. I've also added a dry brush of the beige of the Menoth White base onto the other earth colours that are on the base. That's to match it with the rest of my army. I've even thrown a little bit on the bowstring here just to knock back some of that orange. Not that there's any detail it can bring out. And one of the advantages of this Null Oil is even if you get it on the brown, it is actually just a really dark brown, so it blends in fairly well, just adds shadow. Okay, so my wash is pretty much dry. I'm going to give these guys one last finishing touch before I can call them done. And that's going to be this Quicksilver, similar to the old GW Quicksilver. And we're just going to put this anywhere right at the edge of the metal. And this will give it that kind of worn effect. I'm just going to carefully edge highlight anything I want to look kind of banged up. Anywhere that look kind of polished. Probably not going to do too much on any of this strapping. The gears will get one, but the black's still a bit wet on that. So I'm going to go around that, finish off the black bases, and then we'll see what they look like finished. Okay, I think that's them all finished up, and I think I've caught all the details that the models had. I think they've come out quite nicely, and that's sort of my pretty standard colour scheme and take on these cheap, cheerful little models. I said I'm pretty happy with the way they come out. They're going to be counting as small ballista in Warlords of Erehwon from the Knights list, and they'll be crewed by sets of 3 of these barbarians. So I'm painting these up at the moment, and if you want to see the full paint job on these guys, that'll be my next video. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments, maybe subscribe for more, and as ever, thanks for watching, bye!